Not gonna ban Jack. Shut up. Damn.
My heart and sword, always for Demacia!
Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. In our world, Ukraine will soon have a new president, one who isn't hiding out somewhere in Russia. Early results from yesterday's election show that billionaire Petro Poroshenko, a chocolate tycoon known as the Willy Wonka of Ukraine, will likely win the runoff and the presidency. Poroshenko has promised to both reconnect with Europe and work on relations with Russia. International observers are calling the election a success, but once again, violence in eastern Ukraine is calling progress into question. Helicopters flew over the Donetsk airport as people ducked for cover from gunfire. Residents have been warned to stay indoors and avoid the airport and train station should the elections have calmed the violence. And joining me now is former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, chair of the Albright-Stonebridge Group, who is in Kiev leading an international mission observing the elections. Madam Secretary, thanks so much for joining us. There's a lot of violence right now, especially in the Donetsk airport between militants and the military. Are you concerned at all that this violence could undo all the good that happened with the election yesterday?
I'm very sorry about the violence and the people that are the victims of it, but I think the very big story here is a very successful election that took place yesterday, where there was orderly voting. People knew what they wanted. The vote has spoken for Ukraine. They want to have a sovereign, independent, democratic country. And I think that we need to understand that, and that unfortunately, thanks to the action of the separatists, a small percentage of the nation was disenfranchised, while the rest of the Ukrainian people were able to express their wishes for a democratic, sovereign, and independent Ukraine.
What do you say to people who question if this is a credible election because so many polling stations were closed and so many people intimidated in eastern Ukraine?
The population of Ukraine is over 45 million people. The numbers of people that were able to vote are somewhere between 60 and 65%. We had observers. I'm the chairman of the board of the National Democratic Institute. We had observers all over the country who were reporting about a free and fair election. And I think the important part here is to recognize the legitimacy of the wishes of the Ukrainian people and really feel sorry for those that were prevented from voting by those who had other intentions in terms of destabilizing Ukraine, and the Ukrainian people don't want to be destabilized. They want to be a normal European country.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reiterated that Russia will respect the results of the election and said they were open to dialogue with the new Ukrainian leadership. Does this seem like a softening by Putin and Russia? Is this real?
The thing that I had objected to previously was that I didn't think decisions should be made over the head of the Ukrainians. They needed to be at the table, whether it was in Geneva or other venues, and part of the things that the Russians had been saying earlier was that they wouldn't sit at the table with Ukrainians. And I do think that it makes sense to me that there would in fact be two things going on: how they can be a part of Europe, have a Western orientation, and at the same time have a functional relationship with the Russians. So I hope that that part goes forward, to kind of do both things simultaneously.
Do you think Russia meddled in the run-up to this election?
I think that the Russians clearly had a role in kind of provoking some of the separatists, but whatever they tried to do, they did not succeed in the majority part of Ukraine. What was to me so moving was I went to the Maidan, and a lot of people that I met said we got our dignity in the Maidan, and they went to the elections with their heads held high and voted to have a normal democratic government, and they now deserve that. And I think that the international community, with the U.S. active participant, needs to help them in what is going to be a fairly long story.
Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
When we come back, sick to his stomach. That's how the Defense Secretary says he feels over allegations that veterans died while waiting for care at VA hospitals. My exclusive interview with Chuck Hagel coming up next. Plus, Pope Francis finishing up his Middle East tour, why some Israelis were angered over one stop on his trip. That's coming up.
Blah, 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 blah. Damn it, Brian.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Our needs shape the future.
Seconds until minions spawn.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
I bring justice.
I bring justice.
Minions have spawned.
Fear not, I'm coming.
Oh my god, there's rain over us. Oh my god.
The Monstercat marches as one.
God damn it. Well, man, Q actually hits a fucking minion instead of God damn it!
Welcome back to the lead. Today, Memorial Day. We honor those who have lost their lives to serve their country. President Obama went to Arlington National Cemetery earlier today to lay the wreath at the tomb of the unknown, pay tribute to those men and women. So did Veterans Affairs Secretary Eric Seki, both of whom are, of course, under pressure to respond to the scandal surrounding healthcare delays at the VA. This may have been a simple reminder for the president.
These Americans have done their duty. We ask nothing more than that our country does ours.
Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel was also there to pay his respects. Earlier, I spoke to him near the D.C. War Memorial here in Washington. As a former VA deputy administrator, I also asked him about his gut reaction when he heard the news of these scandals. Are you appalled when you see these stories?
It makes me sick to my stomach. Because it is a clear responsibility we have as a country, as a people, to take care of these men and women and their families who sacrifice so much. I know systems are imperfect. I get that. But when you've got what we do know, and you're right, we do need to get facts. Let's see exactly what happened, why it happened, how it happened. Then we've got to fix it. Then we have to fix it.
But ultimately, you still back Secretary Seki.
Well, I do, because I think, again, let's get the facts here. Let's see what happened, why it happened, how it happened, who knew about it. But accountability, just as President Obama said, is key here.
Secretary of Defense Hagel is also a veteran who served in the Vietnam War and earned 2 Purple Heart stars. So I also asked him to reflect on the time he served and who he still thinks about on Memorial Day.
You and Brother Tom went in together. You saved each other's lives?
We did, I suppose. Both wounded twice. The first time we were wounded was in March of 1968, and we were hit by an ambush going across the stream, and I got hit. We all got hit. I still got shrapnel in my chest, but blood was coming out of me everywhere. Everybody was dazed. He got hit, and I may have bled to death if he hadn't been right next to me, because he used to walk point and put compressors on me, and there was no one else around us. And I mean, you could probably legitimately say he saved my life. Second time we were wounded, our armored personnel carrier hit a landmine at night about 2 o'clock in the morning and blew up our track, and I was throwing everybody off the track, and my face was burnt, everything was burnt, eardrums blown out. My brother was unconscious, and I didn't know he was dead, and I couldn't get him out of a 50 caliber machine gun turret, because I knew that APC would blow up because it was full of ammunition, and it did. But I got him out just in time finally to be strapped into the turret. It probably was 10 seconds after I was able to throw him off and get everybody off with that track to the road. And they dusted us off in helicopters that night to put us in field hospitals.
There's a lot of talk about today's veterans about post-traumatic stress. It wasn't diagnosed back then as a Vietnam era veteran. Did you have it? Do you still have it?
I've never thought about it, Dave. At first, I think you recognize that any individual who goes through
damn it! I didn't want to level that one up.
who sees things,
Enemy double kill.
or people dying in front of them, you're challenged. I mean, there's no question every war. I think it's partly how you handle that. Some can handle it better than others. And I think it also depends on where you come from. What was your situation before you? We're all different. We're all different. But sure, I've been affected. I like to think, or at least what I tried to do. I think that a lot of veterans, most veterans are doing this. Take the positive of what you're doing and apply that thing to what you're doing, and help you maybe make it be a better leader, a better father, a better husband, a better friend. But sure, you get drugged back into moments, and you have to rise above it. But unfortunately, it was not diagnosed as a legitimate problem until years afterwards. So now I think we're doing a good job. It's not perfect, at least we recognize it. police will provide his help. And I think that helps all of them.
God damn it!
About, vacation, free
Fuck you
weekend,
all.
mattress sale, but for some people, it's about remembering people who are no longer here because they fought in wars. You're a Vietnam veteran. Who do you think about on Memorial Day weekend?
Well, I think about all the men and women that I served with, some whose names are on the Vietnam Veteran Memorial Wall.
Anyone in particular?
Yeah, there are a couple guys. Guy by the name of Summers who was killed. My brother Tom and I were first wounded at that time. He was killed in that ambush. And young kid, he'd only been over there, he was only 18, been there 2 months. A guy named Tony Palumbo, who was killed on the kind of the tip, too. There are others. But those two, I think because they happened fairly early in the time that I was there, my brother, somehow those kind of stuck out.
One of those with whom he served was his commander, Lieutenant Jerome Johnson.
My brother Tom and I had looked for our company commander, a young 21-year-old African-American guy that took over our company after being devastated after Texas. Huge racial problems, segregated terms. Couldn't find him. Just talked to him 3 months ago, found him in Chicago. They're bringing him back to Washington, he and his wife and their grandsons to meet with the President of the United States and to spend the weekend with us. We've not seen him since 1968.
He really made you guys integrated.
He made us integrated. He went into that company. We had huge problems. The Army had, 1968, bad year for everybody. We sent 16,000 dead Americans home in 1 year. But racial problems here in the United States. We walked into that company. This young African American I said, no more. We're all Americans. We're going to take care of each other. We'll live together. We're going to fight together. We're going to like each other. No segregated things. Let's get it done. My brother and I have never forgotten. But that's one element of what I think about when I think of veterans. Leadership, courage, doing what's right. It's not just all about war, but it's about the person.
Coming up on the lead, the White House is used to defending itself over leaks to the media, but this time the Obama administration did the leaking itself. How the identity of one high-level CIA official was accidentally released coming up next, plus new anguish for the families of Flight 370 passengers as the search could be suspended for months. We'll tell you why ahead.
An ally has been slain. Shut down.
Are the bad guys.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An ally has been slain. Executed. You have been slain.
Yeah, and the freaking health boss would have mattered.
Never forget why. Leave their ranks! Justice, by law or by sword. I will not
been slain.
Keep pace with yourself.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Behold, we just.
Enemy killing spree. Enemy killing spree.
Welcome back to the Lee's and breaking news now on those hundreds of schoolgirls kidnapped more than a month ago by the Islamist terrorist group Boko Haram in Nigeria. Nigeria's chief of defense is now telling state news that he knows where those girls are. So, time to swoop in and bring back those girls, right? Not so fast. Our senior international correspondent, Arwa Damon, is standing by in Abuja, Nigeria. Arwa, what do we know?
Well, these comments by the Chief of Defense, who is Air Chief Marshal Alex Bud, are fairly vague in the sense that he was simply saying that at this stage, the government, the military will know where the girls are, but are not going to be disclosing that information, really urging people to give them some room to continue with whatever military operation they may have in place, saying though that they would not be using force to try to rescue these girls, that any sort of risk to the girls' lives would not end up being worth it in the end. Here's the challenge though, Jake, as we've been reporting all along. Does the government, does the military in fact know exactly where these girls are? Have those various air surveillance missions that they've been running over various areas of interest in the northeastern part of the country actually been able to lead them to specific locations, or were these comments broadly made in the sense that yes, we know they're in the northeastern part of the country, this is where we believe they are. We still don't know, for example, if the girls are all being kept together or if it is widely suspected they have been broken down into smaller groups. And then, of course, there is the very critical question of if military use of force is out of the question, what is on the table then? Some sort of negotiation. And who exactly do negotiate with Boko Haram at this stage? Very much being described as something of a fractured organization. You could be negotiating with one group trying to secure the girls' release. You could secure the release of those girls, but then not those that are being held by another group. So whilst these comments may lead to a sense of optimism, not a lot concrete on the ground just yet, Jake.
Arwa Damon, thank you so much, and you'll continue to keep us up to date, I know. In other world news, it was supposed to be a trip shrouded in secrecy, which makes it all the more embarrassing that it ended up causing a CIA official's cover to be compromised. President Barack Obama spent a little more than 4 hours in Afghanistan yesterday on an unannounced trip to visit with American forces. He thanked the troops for knocking al-Qaeda, quote, on their heels, and he promised again that this year America's longest war would come to an end. And that was supposed to be the headline from the trip. But now it turns out that the White House accidentally leaked the identity of the CIA's chief in Kabul to literally thousands of reporters. Let's bring in senior White House correspondent Jim Acosta. Jim, the name of the CIA's Kabul station chief was sent to 6,000 members of the media. How did that happen?
It's a real head scratcher, Jake, but it actually did happen yesterday, and we should point out the White House and CIA officials, they're not commenting on the accidental release of the identity of this top operative's name in Afghanistan, and we should also point out that CNN and other news outlets are not reporting the identity of this station chief, but basically here's how it went down, and it's going to sound awfully familiar to you in terms of the process, Jake. Basically, White House officials inadvertently included the name of this station chief in a list of participants who were involved in the president's trip to Afghanistan yesterday to the print reporter who was traveling along with the president, who's a part of that small pool of reporters who get inside that security bubble to cover the president's movements. And that pool reporter included the name in his report. sent it back through the White House press office, and then onto those 6,000 recipients in the news media, people like you and me who get these pull reports. And then it was at that point that that print reporter with the Washington Post noticed the station chief's name spelled out in this email, and then went back to White House officials and said, hey, wait a minute, you really want this name in here? And the White House said no, and they quickly tried to correct it. But Jake, by that point, the name was released. It was put in this email, and the cat was basically already out of the bag. We should point out at this point that we have not heard from the White House, from CIA officials, whether anybody has been fired, what the, I guess the current state is of that operative, that station chief in Afghanistan. Those are some of the unresolved questions at this point, but I can tell you privately, Jake, a lot of administration officials are furious about this and worried, quite frankly, about the safety of that station chief. And just to go to show you some of the discomfort inside the intelligence community about this, Valerie Plame, you'll remember her identity was blown by the Bush administration because people inside the Bush administration were upset with her husband's criticism of the case for war in Iraq. She tweeted out earlier today, astonishing, White House mistakenly identifies CIA chief in Afghanistan. Sort of goes to some of the misgivings in the intelligence community, you know, some of the feelings that sometimes people at the White House, no matter what administration is in power, which party is in power, doesn't always have the CIA's back. So some of that frustration being voiced by Valerie Plame.
Yeah. Who needs Ed Snowden? Jim McConnell at the White House. Thank you so much. The foreign policy issues are legion at this point in the Obama presidency. Besides the impending withdrawal from Afghanistan, the crisis in Ukraine, hacking allegations against the Chinese, and the pressure to broker a nuclear deal with Iran, to name a few, there's also the U.S. reluctance to get further involved in the Syrian crisis, and that is where we pick back up on my conversation with Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. It's something I hear from a lot of people on Capitol Hill and foreign policy men in this town that you must get all the time, and I'm just wondering how you respond to it. They say that in that 45-minute walk that President Obama took with Dennis McDonough, the Chief of Staff, where he decided not to strike Syria, to go to Congress first to get authorization. I understand that there's been this movement to get the chemical weapons out of the country, but there is still a concern on Capitol Hill, Democrats and Republicans alike, that the decision to walk away from that red line that the President drew on chemical weapons weaken the United States, because now allies and enemies don't believe threats. How do you respond to that when you hear that from Capitol Hill?
First of all, I don't agree with it, and I'll explain why. But I think it's a bit simplistic that somehow the United States has lost an edge or a perception of our age or a commitment to the world. The facts just don't bear that out. We have been able to get more, we being the United States, in our leadership, our technology, our equipment, with our partners, with the Danes, with the Norwegians. The Russians have been helpful on this. We've been able to get more than 90% the precursors and the mixers of chemical weapons out of Syria. We'll get that other 8%. We're making good progress. That's a huge achievement. I don't think Assad just gave those chemical weapons up because he thought we were weak. I think just the opposite. This is far more complicated than just one piece of it. So there's a lot going on here, but I think simplistic that a military operation is serious. It's not. We've got to work this thing in all the different
Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for your time. I hope you have a meaningful Memorial Day, and thank you for your service.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it very much.
When we come back, Pope Francis making headlines once again as he travels through the Middle East, but it's a meeting that he set up at the Vatican that could lead to his biggest accomplishment yet. Could. Stay with us.
Killing
Yes.
An enemy has been slain. Your inhibitor has been destroyed. Has been slain.
Fear not. I'm coming.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Stand ready. This fool needs hope. Take the win!
Shut down. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Dick Tapper in World News. The Pope currently on his way back to the Vatican after a 3-day trip to the Middle East, one that might have just set the stage for new peace negotiations in the Holy Land. Not bad for 3 days' work. Let's go to CNN's Ivan Watson live in Jerusalem. Ivan, the Pope invited the presidents of Israel and the Palestinian Authority to visit the Vatican for an interfaith prayer of peace. Both accepted. How big a deal is this?
Well, it's a big deal in the sense that it's the Vatican now, and the Pope trying to wade into the very murky, difficult waters of Palestinian-Israeli peace process. That's one. Second, he's gotten both the Israeli and the Palestinian Authority presidents to, in principle, agree after peace talks basically collapsed last month. So that's another positive step. But whether or not anything can actually come out of it, that's a big question, and we have to keep in mind he's invited the president. Shimon Peres is the Israeli president. It's a largely symbolic post. The real reins of power in the Israeli government system are in the hands of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is not included. Shimon Peres basically stepping down after about 2 months. So how much influence he can have, that's a big question, and there's a short period of time for him left to influence the process.
And Ivan, tell us about the significance of the Pope's stop at the wall that
Who's out here? Take him down. Take him.
Well, it doesn't appear that it was
Take him
planned,
on.
and I can tell
Keep
you
running to my net a little
when
bit.
he did that, the Palestinians were...
He's gonna die regardless.
I mean, they were thrilled
well
that the pontiff had taken
fight
this
to
moment,
death.
had actually laid his hand on that wall next to graffiti that was scrawled on there, and the Palestinians, you know, part of it because he was bringing attention to something that they see as a symbol of Israeli occupation of the West Bank, as a symbol of oppression, and which many of them call the apartheid wall. So they were thrilled with that. Today, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he told the Pope he hopes that someday that wall can come down when Israel can feel safe from terrorist attacks from the Palestinian territory.
I've been watching in Jerusalem. Thank you so much. It's now been 80 days since Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished with 239 people on board, and so far the search above and below the surface has turned up nothing, as you know. Now it looks as though families will have to go nearly the entire summer, at least without answers. Australian officials tell us the search for Flight 370 may be put on hold until at least August, after the Bluefin underwater drone wraps up its mission later this week. The Bluefin 21 currently searching the remaining areas of the ocean floor where possible pings from the plane's flight data reports were detected in April. It's not even clear whether the black boxes were the true source of those pings or if crews are looking in the right place at all. Some families don't think they are. Tomorrow, finally, they may get a better idea of that after Malaysian officials released raw satellite data they've been holding back for months. Don't forget, premiering this Thursday on CNN, The Decade That Changed the World. Space race, Vietnam, free love, British invasion, all of it chronicled in the new 10-part CNN series, The 60s, from executive producer Tom Hanks. That's Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on CNN. That's it for the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. I turn you over to Brianna Keeler, who's in for Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. I hope you have a meaningful Memorial Day. Brianna.
And now, new massacre details. We are learning how the killer's father raced desperately to try to head off the rampage as the father of a victim goes public with his grief and outrage at politicians for yet another American massacre.
Those gutless bastards have done nothing, and my son died because of it. It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
All-out battle a day after a billionaire candy tycoon wins the presidential election with pledges of peace. Ukrainian troops and separatists step up their bitter fighting. And the bidding begins as a critical day looms for Donald Sterling. Is his wife already fielding offers for the LA Clippers? Wolf Blitzer is off today. I'm Brianna Keeler, and you're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we have breaking news right now, a tornado watch for Corpus Christi, Texas and beyond. Also violent weather warnings for the Houston area. Let's go live now to Karen McGinnis. She's in the CNN Severe Weather Center. What's the latest, Karen?
Brianna, we have a very dynamic and dangerous situation taking place across a good portion of Texas, including these coastal areas, also west central Texas. We'll focus in on that region all the way from Corpus Christi down towards Houston. This is where the watch goes in effect until 9 o'clock, that is local time.
That.
One particular zone,
Oh, hell.
the northeast.
Just a little bit. Hello.
Associated with this line just to the southwest of Houston in the area right
Come
now
on.
and Roseburg. Well, we've seen some trees fall down on homes, also windows that have been blown out of homes as well. This is expected to move off toward the northeast at just about 20 miles an hour. Included in that is the fact that there's very heavy rain associated with this. So if a tornado does touch down, more than likely it is going to be rain wrapped. All across Texas, especially central and southern reaches, we do have flash flood warnings and flash flood watches out. Now remember, this is severe weather season. A warning, tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning means that the situation is particularly dangerous. A watch means conditions are favorable, but we're already seeing some thunderstorms erupt and produce some very small tornadoes in West Texas, just to the north of Midland, Texas. So be aware, listen to your weather radar or radio for information, because this is going to be a very dynamic situation as we go into the evening hours, erupting all the way from Lubbock to Midland to San Antonio, Houston. Those are the areas that are most in danger tonight. Brianna?
And do we have any idea just how long this is going to be in effect?
Well, we have those watches that are in effect until 9 p.m. It's possible that they will continue or extend those across this region, right along the Gulf Coast region from Galveston and Corpus Christi into Houston, and then across this Lubbock and Midland area. But those are the two regions until about mid-evening hours, as I mentioned.